Reading from the philosophy, it does not make any sense. The possibilities just don't add up. Page 120. A bat credit card. They gave him a bat credit card. They had the balls to give one of the greatest superheroes of all time a bat credit card? No. No. Does not compute. Does not compute. Does not compute. Nostalgia Critic. September 17th, 2008. Batman is one thing I've mentioned on this channel before. The Phantasm video was my second video essay ever, but being such an early on video, it's terrible, don't watch it. But while we were on that subject, the 90s Batman cartoon was a very high quality thing. We're not talking about the cartoon today, I more so just want to mention it because it has an added context later in the video. But what I do want to mention is the early Tim Burton Batman films of 1989 and 1992. The beginning of the Batman film franchise in the 90s, these were pretty decent films, both being made with the same cast and director. The sequel included Danny DeVito as the Penguin, which feels like an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia bit. These are the same characters. But there was a lot of interesting choice-made decisions when it came time for the last two films of the franchise. For one, directing position being given to Joel Schumacher, who is a great director, mind you, but not everyone is a fan of Schumacher's Batman films, because these films were rapidly different in comparison to its predecessors. Not just the recasting of most of the cast. Being a way more colorful film, the added addition of bat nipples, normal stuff really. On one hand, you have Jim Carrey doing his iconic Jim Carrey impression, and on the other side of the same coin you have Tommy Lee Jones, who literally hated Jim Carrey. So this movie was pretty directionally different. So much so that if you watched all these films back to back, you'll realize there's a heavy difference in tone and style. Batman no longer just casually murders people. Not nearly as beloved as the other ones, but it most definitely has its fans. Now, no matter what positive thing I can say about this movie, it still doesn't really excuse the fact that this movie is kind of stupid. But it's an endearing kind of stupid. I love the scene where Robin starts drying clothes in the most unorthodox way possible while Alfred looks at him as if he likes him just a little too much. It's a schlocky movie, and I do like my schlocky movies. But if we really want to talk about the pinnacle of schlocky superhero movies, then look no further than the finale of this epic 90s Batman film franchise. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Batman and Robin. So you know that feeling when you watch a movie as a kid and you like what you've seen, but when you start to think about it a little, compare it to what came before, you start to realize something is very different about it. But you can't quite pinpoint exactly what that is. This is one of those movies. Being released into our realm in 1997, this movie exists in infamy because it is a very up-there film. I'm telling you, the immediate setting of the tone in the opening, which consists of the giant suiting up scene, which is great because the asses on the suits are caked up for some reason. I already mentioned the bat nipples. I would not have thought to give the suits nipples, but Joel Schumacher did.
Don't wait up, Al.
It's all very distinct, you know? It's one of the finest aged 90s schlock movies. Because Mr. Freeze, being played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, has to make as many ice puns as possible throughout the entire movie.
The Iceman cometh.
And of course they have to stick very, very hard to the ice theming. His goons are hockey players. And of course, Batman and Robin have to play ice hockey with the thing they're trying to steal. Now here's what you gotta expect about Batman and Robin. It's not about asking why all these things are happening. It's about observing how absurd the movie can get. You gotta love the little things, like the freeze gun landing perfectly right here, or when Mr. Freeze throws a guy up in the air and it just looks like he's floating, or just how the dinosaur line was not needed or makes any sense at all, but it was a very deliberate and required choice.
That guy got hit in the head with a coconut!
Mr. Freeze escapes in his giant nuclear-powered rocket. It's a huge action set piece complete with one-liners. It's an amazing thing because this is only the first 11 minutes of the movie, and this is the way the entire movie is composed. It really is my favorite aspect about the movie because in comparison to the earlier Batman films, it is like so tonally deaf, and it's hilarious.
Can you be cold, Batman?
This was also one of the main factors as to why so many people were turned off by this movie on release. It's important to understand where the tone shift came from. I talked about the change in direction at the beginning of the video, but I didn't really go into it, so prepare for exposition. When production began on Batman Forever, the studio wanted something much more child-friendly, and that's because the previous Batman Returns wasn't a very child-friendly movie. There was a lot of product placement for this movie aimed towards kids, and this is the same film with this scene. I don't see the problem. Danny DeVito's just doing his thing for 2 hours. Perfect for kids.
Before you judge me, know this. Yes, I was on the sex island, but only for the snorkeling. I didn't know anything about the kid stuff.
So yeah, this was an actual controversy. Parents and children complained about the movie being very unchild-friendly. So the studio wanted something safe and marketable. So they decided to focus more on the campy side of Batman, which I don't think is a bad idea, it just needs to be done correctly. Batman Forever was okay at doing this. I say okay with the movie with this scene.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
But it wasn't so bad that it turned audiences off of it. But when it came time to make Batman and Robin, they shifted it into maximum overdrive. Down to the jungle biome laboratory with the fucking lightning bolt. The entire design of Mr. Freeze's outfit. From the DVD documentary, they mentioned toy companies came in and designed a lot of the aspects of the film. To quote directly, making sure the movie was toyetic. It's why the Batmobile looks so fucking flashy in this. It has an exposed disco ball engine. It's not practical whatsoever, but that begs the question if they were really going for practicality in this.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
Let's move on to the next scene. I'm sure the characters will say something completely normal.
My experiment to make the dendronium orchid and the South American rattlesnake have failed again.
Another apparent thing with this movie is that the dialogue was purposefully written like this. And further detail about the absolute genius that is this movie, Joel Schumacher before filming would always say, "Remember everyone, this is a comic book." Which is a great explanation as to why everything is delivered in such a specific way.
You dare bring light to my lair? You must die!
I do want to take a moment to talk about Mr. Freeze, because it really is one of the more blatant parts about the movie. Originally being a gag villain, some guy with a freeze gun, that was it. It was in the Heart of Ice episode in the animated series that actually made him a real character. It's regarded as one of the best written episodes in the series because it turns Mr. Freeze into a really well-defined, sympathetic character. It was the TV show that created this version of Mr. Freeze. So I want you all to keep that in mind, because the movie version of Mr. Freeze was based off this version of Mr. Freeze. So you want to know what they did? They gave him a cigar, he's trying to get his goons to sing the Snow Miser song, he's wearing this robe like a pimp! His hideout is an ice cream factory, and he has this girl here who's trying to win him over, but it's the most out-of-place thing ever.
I'm feeling hot.
I find that unlikely.
Oh, Batman and Robin, how could I ever expect you to be faithful to your source material? To be fair, the cigar is more of a Schwarzenegger thing, and the frozen wife is done pretty well, but that's like the only thing that's correct about this. The most important aspect about the character is there, but it's completely tonally inconsistent, the nuances are just gone. And against my own judgment, I kinda love how terrible it is.
I hate when people talk during the movie.
You know, the way everyone is portrayed in this movie is, I was gonna say insane, but there's really just zero nuances to any of it. Remember how Bane was, like, raised in a prison, and he's, like, the crux to Batman or something? He has all the smarts and physical capabilities of Batman. In this movie, he's just dumb now. Poison Ivy is just generic evil who wants to turn world into plant. The scene where Poison Ivy is proposing this plan to Bruce Wayne to stop polluting the environment. The same scene where she announces she's gonna kill Batman and Robin while literally 3 cops are standing right next to her. This segues into the next scene, which is set in this official event, where they are bidding off this diamond. Batman and Robin are there officially like it's the 60s Batman TV show because this is explained by how this is a trap they set for Mr. Freeze. His suit is powered by diamonds, and I'm pretty sure this is the only point in the movie where that's relevant to the plot.
I will freeze the city. Then I will hold Gotham ransom. The city fathers will have no choice but to give me the billions I need to complete my research.
Poison Ivy is there because she's using her plant pheromones, so Batman and Robin are like fighting over who gets to fuck her because conflict. And this really is the scene that hones in on how far removed this film is from the entire collection of Batman filmography. Remember how Batman was like a detective or something? In this scene, Batman and Robin start bidding money on Poison Ivy to try and decide who she's gonna go out with.
It's a utility belt, not a money belt. 6 million. 7 million.
Who was this movie made for? Was it made for the people who grew up on the 60s TV show? Was it made for kids? Or was it made specifically for just me? Because in my opinion, this right here is peak cinema. It can't get any better than this.
Alright, everyone. Chill.
So in order to piss off specifically Batman fans even further, catering specifically to my tastes of terrible content, Mr. Freeze shows up in his stupid mobile thing and starts yelling ice puns again. He does a Super Mario long jump across the room.
Look at you. Blind girl. Fine lady. Hand over the diamond garden gal. Or I'll turn you into mulch.
They chase Mr. Freeze down these giant statues, and this is another thing I noticed as a kid. Yes. As a kid, I did think this stuff was awesome. Do I still think this is awesome? Yes, but for different reasons. But I never stopped to question the portable gliding wings. I especially never questioned the Bat credit card. It makes complete total sense in the universe. But this comes back to the comment I made earlier in the video about how, as a kid, you can tell something's different about the media you watch, but you can't quite pinpoint what that is. It comes from experience. Bringing back the tone discussion, it wasn't that it was bad, but more so different enough that Kid Me could tell something was different. I don't remember my Gotham City having these giant Greek statues. Oh god, look at the time. Yeah, I spent this long waiting to talk about Batman in the Batman video about the Batman film. Off topic, but when it comes to Batman films, I like to rate them based on how funny of a Batman face they make. In the first movie it was this, the second one was a split-second frame, and the third Val Kilmer one is the king of funny faces. Batman and Robin doesn't have a funny face, but it makes up for it in experience. Now, I don't claim to be a film critic here. They are all great actors. They have gone on to do greater things than this. But George Clooney's performance is such an experience because it's as if he just found a Batman costume and decided to run around as Batman for a week. Now this just comes back to the fact that this is just how everyone was directed in this movie. No one took it seriously because they were told not to take it seriously. Everyone hams it up because they were told to. And that's what resulted in this performance.
Well, I'm totally over, all right? Positively.
Great stems, though.
Buds, too.
Yeah, those are nice.
I could bring up accuracy again, and yeah, we've already addressed that this movie is not accurate to its source material, but let's be fair here. I would argue neither were the Tim Burton films. Batman kills a lot of people in those movies, and that's an idea looking at the comics and the animated series that goes directly against the character. That doesn't make the Tim Burton films bad though. They're just different takes on Batman. Why do I bring up that Batman kills in these films? Well, I just think it's funny in retrospect.
Vengeance isn't power anyone can take a life, but to give life. That's true power, a power you once had. Help me save another life.
To be fair, Batman Forever explicitly has a scene that addresses this. Maybe it invalidates the joke I'm making, but I still think it's funny in retrospect. This is the same character. I've probably mentioned it already, but for the sake of conversation, we're going to talk about inconsistency. The Tim Burton films had these really great slower scenes accompanied with Danny Elfmonster's soundtrack that allowed for really meaningful character moments. Batman and Robin has slower moments, but it feels like they tried to spend as little amount of time focusing on them as possible. So we can get back to Ice Code number 6784. It's as if these scenes are just here out of necessity, and they're not very well nuanced either. I love that there's a scene in this movie where Wayne and Alfred are trying to have a serious discussion, and the same scene is followed up by Mr. Freeze being transported in a fridge. There is not a single hint of self-awareness, and I love it. The guards say, "Welcome home, Frostface. You're the common cold, and we're the cure."
All right, Freezy. You can't live outside the cold zone.
After this scene, the character introduced earlier in the movie, Barbara Wilson, later Batgirl, played by Alicia Silverstone, were treated to this whole illegal bike racing scene. Coolio makes a cameo because he was originally supposed to play the Scarecrow in the planned sequel to this movie. The people from Clockwork Orange show up. Also, Shaggy is there for some reason. Conspiracy afoot? So the reason she's been doing all these illegal bike races is because she wants to save up enough money to take Alfred away from this place. She thinks Wayne and Dick treat Alfred as their slave, directly quoting the movie. This plot point exists only to give us an excuse to have a Batgirl in the movie, and also to lead into the Alfred being bedridden with the disease scene. So this is the main plot point in the movie. Throughout the movie, Alfred keeps making these faces. That's apparently him suffering from the disease. He's over here suffering from the 7-day blinding stew. Bruce has this real heart-to-heart with him, and this is a pretty genuine scene. But being this movie, you know.
I love you, old man.
So like 70,000 fucking ice puns later, it's revealed here that the disease Freeze's frozen wife has is McGregor syndrome, which just so happens to also be the same disease Alfred has, all by complete coincidence.
McGregor syndrome, that's what Frieza's wife had.
Trust me, complaining about coincidences in this movie is the least of our worries. So, of course, this is like the point of the movie where all the big plot points start coming together for the big climax. Barbara discovers the Batcave, and of course this is done by her doing this whole code-breaking scene, which, at this point in the movie, you expect it. Of course it starts flashing things on her face so the viewer can see it. It's stupid, but at least it has a point. And yes, she does get a suit-up scene, just like the beginning of the movie. And she has a prominent breastplate design.
Barbara with big titties.
Also, Batman and Robin are being like the best characters ever.
She wants to kill you, dick.
I'd say anything to keep her away.
Ivy gaslights Mr. Freeze into thinking his wife is dead, which of course is followed up by this quote.
Yes. Adam and evil.
Mr. Freeze using the telescope shown earlier in the movie, he plans to freeze over Gotham City as an act of revenge. And of course, they gotta stop Ivy first before they take down Freeze. She's the second before the final boss.
I want us to be together, but I want to make sure you're serious about turning over a new leaf.
So of course, the climax goes, you know, it goes. Of course, Robin wearing rubber lips makes sense. Of course, Batgirl busts in and says a one-liner about grass. Of course, Batman says something about how the name Batgirl isn't PC. I'm sorry, what?
Batgirl.
That's not awfully PC. What about bad person or bad woman?
They put this shot in the movie. Yeah, that's just how Batman and Robin was shipped. Version 1.0 is kind of buggy.
I found the Batcave.
She knows who we are.
Guess we'll just have to kill her.
And who says chivalry is dead? Finally, they're off to fight Mr. Freeze, and they go there in these fucking things. So there's the whole scene where Mr. Freeze uses the telescope to freeze over the city, and it's pretty cool, I must admit. Of course, for good measure, he hits us with another ice quote, and this one actually goes really hard, I won't lie.
Let's kick some ice.
So I began to think about something that you shouldn't be thinking about while watching a movie like this.
We have less than 11 minutes to thaw the city.
It's established pretty early on that when someone is frozen, they have 11 minutes to be thawed out before they die. You see, it's funny they go by these rules in the theatrical movie meant for the general audience, when in the literal kids cartoon meant for children, if you get shot by the freeze gun, it's treated with full seriousness. You're literally fucked if you can't find medical treatment. So we have our established rules. Never mind the police officers at the beginning of the movie, it's not important. So they do this whole 11 minutes thing at the end of the movie, and I swear I didn't do this on purpose. I have to talk about the goddamn 89 movie again. Just bear with me here, guys. But yeah, in the 89 movie, they do the same exact thing, and it actually lines up there.
Gotham City Cathedral. Transportation. 2. Better make it 10.
And I swear I didn't do this on purpose. Because in this movie, it actually lines up here. I'm probably the first person to ever talk about this. But did I benefit humanity in any way by talking about this? No.
8 more minutes in a city full of Gothamites or ice cubes forever.
Sunlight could reverse the freezing process.
We'll sunrise them for 5 hours.
Here,
But it's morning in the Congo.
Remember how I talked about Bane being the parallel to Batman? Similar in strengths, but different in morals. Raised in a prison, a murderer, a killer. They defeated by pulling out the venom hose in his head.
Freeze in hell, Batman!
Yeah, I don't know about that one. So, of course, they defeat Freeze. He's there, lying on the ground, dying from cringe. Batman tells him his wife is alive. He gives him the cure to the disease for Alfred. In exchange for going back to Arkham, he gets to work on his research to save his wife. What about the billions you needed to complete your research? Blech, doesn't matter. Arkham will pay for it. And they all live happily ever after. Oh, it's a bad movie. By all means. But that back credit card was some funny shit. The special features on the DVD gives a lot of really interesting insight into the production of the movie. And this is a reminder that this was a major blockbuster film. And because of that, a major amount of effort was put into every single aspect about the film. Whatever the quality may be at the end of the day, real people worked on this, and I still think it deserves to be highlighted. Historically, George Clooney was working 7 days a week while on this production, and I just think that's neat. There's a lot of weirder parts, such as during production, Alicia Silverstone gained weight, and that's why her scenes in the movie were cut down. Reporters created a smear campaign out of this, which was just completely unfair and fucked up. They even mentioned this in the documentary.
That's not only PC.
Allegedly, I cannot find anywhere that confirms this, but other videos say this. George Clooney still keeps a poster of this movie as a reminder to himself as he was very unhappy with this production. I mentioned the toyetic thing earlier in the video, but that is an actual thing they bring up in the documentary. This movie was made to sell toys.
In Batman and Robin, there was a real desire at the studio to keep it more family-friendly, more kid-friendly, and a word I had never heard before, more toyetic.
But the most notorious thing is that Joel Schumacher himself openly apologizes in the documentary.
If there's anybody watching this that, let's say, loved Batman Forever and went into Batman and Robin with great anticipation, if I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize, because it wasn't my intention. My intention was just to entertain them.
He shifts the blame on how the film turned out on himself, and it's cool to see a director do this, but I think it's really messed up, because Joel Schumacher's reputation tanked a bit because of this movie. He was only making the movie that the studio wanted. I don't think he was solely to blame for the quality of the film. A lot of the blame can be shifted on the writing, because that script is not great, but to shift the blame all on one person, I don't think is correct. The studio canceled any future plans for Batman films after this release. This movie killed off Batman movies entirely until we finally received The Dark Knight Rises 8 years later. If we are to look at this critically, it's pretty bad. And I find it truly ironic that the animated cartoon coming out at the same time was doing stuff way more adult than the movies. And that's the most interesting thing to me, for some reason. I'm sure there are people who find it to be more beloved now, but for me personally, I think if you look at it for what it is, a really unserious, ridiculous, and over-the-top entertaining product, it's honestly pretty fun. It's a joke if we are to be critical about it. It's a bad movie, but it never ceases to entertain me. May you rest in peace, Joel. You're an amazing director, and your Batman movies have brought me so many wonderful memories. They gave him a Bat credit card. Never leaving home without it.